For today's good question, Lisa asks, what's the most common cause for racehorse deaths? Well, looking at the reports from the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, of the 20 horses who died on Kentucky tracks this year, 18 of them were euthanized after an injury to a limb. Well, sometimes that happened on the track, some back at the barn, sometimes at an equine hospital. A report published in the Journal of Veterinary Diagnostic Investigation shows that catastrophic musculoskeletal injuries are the most common cause of euthanasia or spontaneous death in racehorses. But finding the cause of those injuries has proven difficult. The Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority released a report earlier today after investigating the multiple deaths earlier this year at Churchill Downs. Quote, despite extensive investigation and analysis, HISA did not identify any singular explanation for the fatalities at Churchill Downs. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't any lessons to be learned from that investigation. They went on to say, however, analysis of training histories did indicate an increased risk profile for some of the horses due to the frequency and cadence of their exercise and racing schedules. The organization says they plan to continue analyzing those risks. If you have a good question, you can email goodquestion@wkyt.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.